Hello, class. This past week, we have been learning about place value and comparing numbers. We learned how you must use place value to determine whether a number is greater than, less than, or equal to another number. Today's lesson will focus on how we can apply comparing numbers to real-life situations. So imagine yourself playing in a basketball game. Your team scored several points and the other team scored several points. By the end of the game, your team has a total of 45 points and the away team has 36 points. So since it's the end of the game, no more time is left, this is the final score. So you have to now figure out whether or not your team won the game with the most points or if the away team won the game with the most points, which means you have to compare the two numbers. So what we learned earlier this week is that to compare two numbers, you have to first look at the digit that has the highest place value. So in this case, we are going to be looking at the tens place. The away team in the tens place, they have a 3, and your team, the home team, has a 4. So right away, we should be able to determine who won based off just looking at the tens place. We can see since we have a 4 in our tens place, 4 is higher than 3, which means 45 is a greater number than 36. Which then means that the home team is the winning team with the most points. So by just thinking about basketball and comparing numbers in basketball, that is one way that comparing numbers is used in real life. Not only basketball, but other sports where numbers come into play. With all of those sports, they all have to do with comparing numbers. You have a winning team and a losing team based off of either the higher score or the lower score. All right, so for the second situation, I want you to picture yourself at a bakery. And at the bakery, you are with your friend. Your friend bought 3 cookies and you bought 6 cookies. Now you have to figure out which number is greater. So a 6 looks like this, and a 3 looks like this. Now, since these two numbers are just both one-digit numbers, you are just looking at the ones place. So 6 versus 3. We can even look at our laid out picture here of the cookies. The higher number, who has the most cookies? Well, you do. You can clearly see you have the most, which means you have a greater number of cookies than your friend. 6 is greater than 3. All right, for the next situation, I would like for you to imagine yourself with a friend again. And this time you both went to a store to pick out your favorite hat. A beautiful red baseball cap. You each have some money in your wallet, but the problem is the hat costs $15 and you have 14 and your friend has 18. So first, to figure out if you can buy the hat, you have to look at your amount of money in your wallet and the cost of the hat. So $14 versus $15. Do you have enough money to buy the hat? Well, we have to first look at the tens place. So here's the tens place, and here's the tens place. In previous lessons, we learned that if you look at a number and compare it to another number, if they are the same number, you slide over to the next one. So in this case, we must slide over to the ones place, which means we are now going to be looking at the 4 and 5. So several ways to figure out whether or not one of these numbers is higher or not is you can draw 5 dots and 4 dots and compare the two numbers to see which one has the most. Or you can use your fingers, put up 5 fingers on one hand and 4 fingers on the other hand. Look at your 2 hands and figure out which hand is holding up the most. Several different ways, several different strategies that you can use. So if I'm going to draw my dots, I'm going to draw little circles. So 4 and 5. Okay. So I can cross off one here, and one here, one here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And by looking at these, now I have one left over on this side, which means this is the greater number. Here we have our signs. So we have the greater than, less than, and equal to. And in this case, if we are comparing 14 to 15, the correct placement would be using the less than sign. Our whole answer here would be 14 is less than 15. Sadly, you don't have enough money to buy the hat. So now you are going to be looking at your friend and comparing your friend and how much money he has in his wallet and how much money the hat is. So we already know that the hat is $15 and your friend has $18. So what we need to do is go ahead and look at the first digit first, which in this case is our 1 and our 1. 1 and 1 is the same, which means we get to slide over and look at the ones place now. So we have a 5 and an 8. So I'm going to draw dots again, and we're going to compare our dots. So 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so to compare these two, I'm going to start crossing off one from each side, and whichever has dots left over is going to be our higher number. So cross off 1 and cross off. Cross off. 1 from here, 1 from here, 1 from here. All right, so now that I've crossed off the same amount on each side, that leaves me with 3 left over on our friend's side here, which means that he has $3 more than the hat actually costs. So we need to determine whether or not he has enough money by using our symbols here. So the correct symbol, if we put the greater than symbol in here, it would say that 15 is greater than 18. And we already know that that is not true. If we put our less than sign in here, that would say that 15 is less than 18. Is that true? Yes. So we're going to move our symbol over. And our friend has enough money to buy the beautiful red hat. All right, now this might look familiar to a lot of people. Maybe you've seen a magazine or a newspaper article, something that looks similar to this. This is a clipping from a newspaper where they were advertising televisions. So there are 3 different kinds of televisions, but different sizes. So what we really need to do is look at the TVs and figure out which one is a good deal and whether or not we want like a smaller TV or a larger TV. So we're going to look up here. You can get this TV in a 60-inch or a 42-inch. The 60-inch and the 42-inch, these are the prices for both, but if we want to figure out which one's bigger, if we want the bigger TV, we're going to compare these 2 numbers. So 60 let's just do this. Let's do 60 and 42. So even though the numbers are not going to be side by side right now, we're just going to look at them on top of each other. So this actually makes it easy because we can line up the numbers. So our highest value here is the tens place, so we're looking at the tens place here, which is a 6, and we're going to look at the tens place here, which is a 4. So looking at those 2 numbers, comparing the numbers, if we draw out our dots again, or our circles, I'll draw 6 circles. 4, 5, and our 4 down here. Alright, now let's start crossing them off to see which one is the bigger number. We do 1 from each side. Alright, so I've crossed off all of mine from down here, which means I have no more, which means this number has 2 left over. That is going to be our bigger number. So 6 is bigger than 4, which means we don't even have to look at the ones place. We can just look at the 6 and know that 6 is bigger than 4. 60 is going to be the bigger TV. So in this case, we would choose the 60-inch TV. All right, let's compare these ones down here. Which one down here? If we want the bigger number again, we are looking at the 3 and the 2. So we're going to be comparing the tens digits again. 3 versus 2. I can hold up my fingers. How about you hold up 3 fingers on one hand and 2 fingers on the other hand, and I want you to look at your fingers. You can put 1 down from each hand until you have a number remaining. So do that right now. All right, so you should have just 1 finger up on the hand that had the 3. So that tells us our 3 is going to be a bigger number than our 2, which means we don't even have to look at the ones place to know which one's bigger. We are just going to be looking at the tens place. So 39 is going to be a bigger TV than a 24-inch. And that pretty much sums up how we can apply comparing numbers to our daily lives. So take this information that you learned today. Maybe you can go out to the store and compare numbers or prices of things. Maybe you're going to be watching a sports game later and you can compare the numbers of the games. Whatever you do, just know that comparing numbers can be applied to real life.